Hello! How's it going? What do you guys think? How am I doing with this Vlogmas thing? It's hard to come up with ideas. All right, today I have, like you saw on the title screen, sewing tools that are a little bit extra. And what I mean by that is these are kind of the tools that you don't really need, but they make certain tasks a lot better or nicer or easier or less painful, right? And if you are shopping for a sewist in your life, or maybe you want to timestamp one of these objects and send it to someone who you would like them to buy it for you, I'm just going to give you a little bit of like my favorites. So you all know what my favorite tools are. I use them all the time, right? You don't need to hear me say that. So I'm just going to tell you some that are a little bit off the beaten path, and maybe one of them will speak to you or the person that you're giving to or someone that's giving it to you. So, all right. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this fusible interfacing on a roll. I have it in black and white. It is tricot. I get it from Waywack. I'm not even going to have affiliate links in the description. Like I'm not doing Vlogmas for that reason. If you want to support me, you can go to my website. There's a lot of ways to support me on there. And I do have affiliate links on there, but that's not what I'm doing here today. And if you want a link to these things, just let me know. I will send you one. I'm just not trying to make money off you guys or anything. But anyway, Waywack is a place in the United States. They sell this tricot by the yard or by the roll. You can get it in different widths. This is the 3-inch roll. I love it. Most of the things I interface are collars, plackets, you know, things like that, cuffs, things that are narrow, waistbands, flies, and even on a curved waistband. I'm sure some sewists would be like, just delete my channel if they saw what I use this for on a curved waistband. But I literally cut into it and I curve it and I let it overlap because it fuses to the fabric really, really nicely. Tricot in general just does. So you can get tricot that's yardage and it's meant for stretch fabrics like knits and things if that you need to interface, which is kind of rare. And I bought this originally. I'm going to tell you my whole story because shout out to Waywack because I bought this thinking it was going to stretch going this way. And I was super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I can buy this for knits and things like that. And it doesn't stretch this way. It stretches this way, right? Which didn't really help me for what I had wanted it for. And I wrote them and I was like, you know, you're selling this tricot, but it's not stretchy. And they were like, oh, sorry. And sorry that you misunderstood or whatever. You know, they were very, very nice. Not that I misunderstood, but they were just sorry and they refunded my money. And then I ended up falling in love with this stuff and I buy it all the time. So I'm always trying to shout it out just because I was very nice of them. They didn't need to refund me. I would have mailed it back at my cost, whatever, right? But I ended up falling in love with it. It's the second time I bought it and I bought it in both these colors, okay? And it's just great. You can get a 1-inch strip, whatever. I always have little 1-inch pieces sitting in my thing, and it has been the handiest like sleeper notion I have used this year, and I'm fully in love with it. When it fuses really, like it really bonds with the fabric. If you're a fusible interfacing like person, like you like to use it, you know me, historically I used to never use fusibles and I've kind of grown to like them, especially this, and it makes it feel like it's as one with the fabric. It never has done that puckering or cellulite look on the right side. It's just amazing. So that would be one of my picks. Very affordable, by the way. It's like $10 for a roll or something like that. Like it's dirt cheap in my opinion. All right, so that's one of them. All right, so let's see what, okay, so let's get this bigger one off my table here. The Simflex. Now, if you're someone that puts buttons in buttonholes or does a lot of pleating, this thing is pretty handy, all right? So I've got a shirt on my lap here. So I've got this shirt I just finished. Where's the, and I've already marked my buttonholes on here. You can barely see them. This fabric's been so hard to film. But you can see that I can just pull this out. I usually put a weight, you know, on it, and I can pull it out and I can get an idea like what's the spacing that I'm looking for, right? And then you put this, I use my Choco liner and I just draw right on the fabric like this. I don't use this little slit here, but you could, I guess, if your marking tool, sorry, I'm having trouble keeping this on the table. like this. All right, here we go. Maybe you could do it inside there like this. Yeah, that works. That could totally work, right? And I just put this mark at the top of every buttonhole, and then I take my button and then draw in the bottom mark, right? So very straightforward. It makes this task so much more pleasant. So it's definitely not the cheapest tool. I feel like these are in the $17 range. I know that's not a lot of money, but you know, like tools really add up. So anything like they have bias strips, I would never use it for that. That's a little extra, but anything that you're trying to evenly space, it's great. And say your thing is longer than this, you just pick this up and then move it, you know? So yeah, anyway, it's called the SimFlex Expanding Sewing Gauge, and it's super handy. I love that thing. All right, so let's put my shirt away now. And I'll put my Choco liner away. I do love the Choco liner. It's not on my list today, but it is something I love. It's actually would be my favorite marking tool, but the chalk doesn't always disappear. So, oh, my machine's on. All right, so here, this is the, okay, here's my others. This is a soapstone pencil, and it, you know, draws on fabric, you know, kind of like a chalk, but it's actual soapstone. It can break, and I treat this really gingerly, and then when you sharpen this, you would probably use like a little knife or razor blade. I really like how firm it is. You can kind of see that mine is listing to the side, probably from pressure or whatever. But I actually really love this thing. That is inside there is the soapstone. I've never used the rest of this. I've been using this for a while, and it lasts a really long time. So if you really needed something that lasted a while, this is a pretty cool little marking tool. You know, Taylor's chalk is really great because it's really sharp. Same with the Choco liner, but that one sometimes doesn't. The yellow for me never disappears. This is great. I haven't seen this linger at all, and it stays on there. Like chalk will just flake off, you know, but this doesn't. So this is pretty cool, and it's called a soapstone marking tool or pencil, and I got this from Waywack as well. And the SimFlexes, these are around. I think you can probably get it Waywack as well. All right, the Hera marker. Now this is another one of those sleeper notions. So I love this thing because I don't know why mine's so dirty. How does it get dirty? What's great about it is that you might not be able to see this, but what it kind of does is it dents the fabric. So it's just plastic. It's just a sharp piece of plastic, right? And when you do this on the fabric, look at that. Do you see that line that I just created? That's from the Hera marker. And it's just basically like denting the fabric. So you're not marking it at all. And that will fully wash away, right? Maybe on a linen, you know, you might be bending or breaking the fibers a little bit since it's more in that like paper or tree family of fibers, you know, not to get too technical. But I've never seen the markings from this linger. And again, it won't flake off. It stays there until I'm ready to sew. I really love this thing. People can't see it on camera very well when I'm using it on stream, but I can, and it works great. And someone in my guild recently used this on their collar stand right here to poke out this corner of their collar stand. And I thought that was really clever. So that was kind of cool. I wouldn't buy it just for that, but I do really like it for, you know, like marking on, you know, like I could make a drill. I know you cannot see that. Sorry, it's so dark, but it really shows up in front of me. Like it's very, very visible. It kind of gets like a shiny, makes the fabric a little shiny right there. So I love this thing. It's called the Hera marker, H-E-R-A. And it's also by Clover, which a lot of my favorite tools are by Clover. Put that back. Okay, this right here, I'm feeling a little guilty about this one because this is not what this is for. This is a Japanese screw punch, and it's for paper making or paper crafts and things like that. And I've been using one for a really long time to mark like drill holes in the middle of a garment or a pattern. And I did use it for pattern drafting for years. And so if I wanted a hole in the middle of my pattern to mark like where a pocket goes or something like that, you can't use a hand punch because the hand punch can only go in 1.5 inches to the edge of the paper, right? Enter this, you know, that it can go, you know, anywhere you want, right? Instead of like the little hand punch can go this far, right? I actually used it on my table here, and I've had a dent there ever since by accident when I was putting a hole for like rivets or tack buttons or something, and I just gotten my machine. So rip. It's very visible. Now you're going to see this. It's very visible to me. I hate it. But this comes with lots of different sized tips, and they just unscrew right here, and then you remove the little tip right there. But that's not why it's called a screw punch. It's called a screw punch because the way it can cut the paper in the middle of wherever you're at is the tip actually turns like a screw while you're depressing it, and it actually moves. And can you see this little, like, watch this little gap right here when I push on it. Oh, see, you see the whole thing. It's actually not that moving, it's this. And then that little like crevice right there. Oh no, here, this little crevice right here, that's where the little circle will come out right there. So when I hold this and depress it, it's actually screwing in my finger, like it's moving like this. So this is really cool. It comes in different tips, and the tips are replaceable. And I love this because there's a pretty big one, not the size of like a standard, you know, binder, you know, whatever, hole punch, and they get really tiny too. So this is one of my favorite things. I got the whole screw punch from Pattern Drafting Supply Place. These are more common now. You can buy them from Beyond Measure in the United Kingdom. You might be able to get these at places like Waywack, but it's called a Japanese screw punch. You can Google it, you'll find it. It's really great. Comes with lots of tips. Not a cheap tool, but if you're someone who's getting into pattern drafting, or you're doing a lot of production sewing and you're tired of marking the drill holes of like where a pocket goes, or you're marking the same thing over and over again and there's like a hole in the middle, I use this. I drill a hole right through my fabric. I know that a lot of people really don't like that because, you know, we're hand making it, we want it to last forever. Here's the deal. That's how they do this in the garment industry. They use a hot needle or something similar to drill a hole through the whole layer, all the layers of the fabric when they're cutting out garments, right? So say there's like 100 layers of fabric, there's usually more. They take a hot needle and they poke it straight down. It doesn't create a negative space with the hole, but it sears the fabric really quickly. They also do puff notches where it's a needle with slots on the side and chalk shoots out. And so that would be on something a little bit more delicate that they don't want to, you know, drill a hole into, or it's visible on the inside of the garment. So I use this. Let's see if I did it on here. I think I did. I will use it. And then when I sew my pockets, I'm very strategic about where I place my stitching. So there's my screw punch hole, and then this is the corner stitching at the top of my pocket. So here, this is it right here. So the hole that I drilled is right here inside this pocket stitching. And that's just one of the things I got really good at, positioning things and knowing where to drill a hole. You can't just drill a hole on any kind of pattern you buy. You need to make sure you know where that hole actually is in relation to the pattern piece you're sewing. But once you do, you can just mark the drill hole on the pattern and then use that. And then you can just toss it in a bin. You don't have to worry about pins or chalk or losing the marking. I love this thing. And so definitely a more splurge of a tool. All right, lastly, I do not want to drop my soapstone, so we're going to put that, and I have a little like magnetic caddy there. The last thing I have, this is definitely another niche little product, is this binding attachment right here. And I set it all up, and then I'm going to take it off the machine and show you. So I used to have a machine that was dedicated to binding, and it had an installed binding attachment. Not like this. This is a lot simpler and not permanent, right? So the permanent kind, they will take out the throat plate and the feed dogs and they replace them with another set. They're not like permanent, like your machine can never do anything else again. But once it's set up with a binding attachment like that, you're not converting it back and forth. It'd be too much of a pain. Enter this little thing. It really pained me when I had to sell that machine because I was like, I really don't need a binding attachment. Yes, I could have converted it to just being a straight stitch machine again, but I had gotten this brand new machine because I still had my factory at the time, so I needed all the machines. So when I got rid of the factory, I sold that binding machine to somebody. They were thrilled to get it. I was paying to let it go. It served me through mask making though, which was really great, which was really fun to use it then. And there's a few videos on my channel of me using it. But I finally bought this little guy. It's a 1.5 inch. It says 1.5 right here on this plate. This plate's sitting above my machine. That is fine. It works great. This is a double fold, so it folds the fabric on top and below, so it's wrapping around the edge and it's clean finish. So once it's installed, which takes like a second to do, it's really great. I'll show you. You can just put the fabric in there and then you're gonna sew, and then it's gonna bind the edge. Now, my binding is my stitching is really close to that folded edge. I can actually move it over a little bit. So I slide it over a little bit more. So it's adjustable. Now I'm using an industrial sewing machine. Oh, I didn't round this corner, but I think I can still maybe turn the corner. That's not ideal. I would set that up a little better to turn the corner. I have seen people use these where they double stick Velcro them to their machine, or use that goo, like ticky-tacky, I don't know what that stuff's called, like a putty, to stick it to their machine. So you could do that. So the limitation with using a binding attachment, before you get all excited and you're like, oh my gosh, I have all these quilts to bind. What about that pot holder you just made, Saremy? Here's the deal. You have to be able to go onto the fabric and off of the fabric. So in other words, if we wanted to come around here, you can see what would happen, right? So if we came here, I like being really transparent so you don't get your hopes up. So when I get here, it's like, what do I do, right? I can trim this little edge, right? But if I wanted this to be continuous, I would actually have to remove a little bit of this binding, and I would probably stop sewing, pull it out, leave a tail. Then it would be really fussy, right? You'd have to like turn this back. I wouldn't even start and stop at a corner. I'd start and stop in the middle or something, you know? So there's limitations to this, but it's super handy for lots of different things. It's very affordable. It's less than like, I feel like it's like $12 to $15. They come in different styles and sizes, and this is literally all you do to install it is screw it to the machine with this. So I have this, you can't see, maybe you can see a little bit, it looks like two eyes and a, oh, like that. The two eyes are a screw hole. I can use either one. I have this piece of tape on here so I don't lose the screw when I'm not using it. That's why that tape's on there, because I did lose it once. And it's very easy to do. So once you screw it on there, you just wind your binding through here. You can use hand cut binding. This is machine, like I sent this out and had it made once. But you can use hand cut binding. This binding I'm using is 1 3/8 inch wide, and it's supposed to be 1.5 inch wide. And when I use 1.5 inch wide, it works way better. And I will say this one is less fussy than my old one that was like installed in the machine and it had a mechanic that like set it up and everything. This one works better. My old one slightly stretched the binding as it attached it, which had some repercussions because a lot of our stuff would be kind of slightly scrunched. You could use that to your advantage sometimes, but sometimes you didn't want it to do that, right? So you just thread it in there, and then once you get it through here, and if you watch the, I set this up on a stream once. I wish I knew which one it was. And I did it in an uploaded video, the Sport Shorts by Friday Pattern Company. If you search for that on my website, you'll find a link right to it. And at the end of that video, I show me setting it up. It's really easy. And so you pull it through this the little folding thing here. I need to hold on this edge here like that. All right, and so it's messy in there. And then I just kind of, I need to hold on. I don't usually hold it up high to do this, but I kind of floss it back and forth like this and pull it back until it's even. Like you want this divided evenly, right? You don't want this to be cockeyed, and you want this to go in here nice and flat. And then that's it. And once you get it going, and you don't have a raw edge like that, you don't want that. But once you get it going and you have two folded edges like that, you're ready to go. And you can start binding, and it's super forgiving over seams in your binding as well, as long as you've treated the seams to be nice and low profile. This is twisted here. These right here are very low profile, you can see. So just press them and make sure they're flush. It works great. I got this at Waywack. There's a link to this. This is where I will tell you, look at my website for a link. It's on the tools tab, so you get the right one. Single fold binding is different. That means that one side is a raw edge and then the other side is folded under. Double fold means the top and the bottom are folded. There's lots of variations on this, and there's literally an infinite number of binding kind of combinations between widths and folding, knit, woven, whatever. But this is a really fun thing. I really loved it, and I love how fast it is to put on. So I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna try my binding attachment. Bing, it's on, and I'm binding in seconds. So I love it. This is very cool, and it does vinyl, canvas, a couple of layers of fabric, probably a few more. Like I said, a quilt, not ideal. You could probably make it work, but it's kind of too narrow. You would want something wider to be able to wrap around something thick, because look at that. That's pretty narrow. See this little spot right there? So if your quilt's going in there, the binding is going to get shallower and shallower. It can't wrap around because you have the thickness to take into account for that whole width. So just remember that. So anyway, those would be my like extra tools, like things that are a little over and above what you really need as a sewist. And I think that these would be all ones I'd be pretty thrilled to have. So. All right, let's write our letter to Santa. I love doing this. Oh, I feel like in a way, like doing this, writing letters to Santa, let me put my lucky antlers on. I feel like I'm gonna manifest it. All right, we need a piece of candy. You haven't seen me eat one of these, and it's because I'm eating them off camera. I'm not going to lie. The little nutcracker peanut butter one. Look at how cute he is. I've never seen these before. I love Reese's. They do not taste the same as they did when I was a kid, but the dark chocolate ones do. These aren't dark chocolate. This one's pretty darn good, though. All right. Dear Santa. What is Saremy asking for today? Man, kids get to write one letter to Santa. I'm writing one every single day. I'm demanding. Dear Santa, what do we want? I have to shop for fabric a lot. I have to shop for fabric for my stream, for my projects, for other people's projects, for jobs I get. And if there's one thing that I don't like, is when a fabric store doesn't have stretch wovens listed as a category. Dear Santa, oh gosh, that really hits my camera. Please ask fabric stores, online fabric shops, if they would please let us sort fabrics. Oh, this is the distinction I want. By stretch woven and by knit. They are two different things, and if they don't know that, I don't want to shop from them. By stretch woven and knit. If I'm looking for fabric for stretch jeans, how do I look for that? Bottom weights, and then it's just like thrown in there with everything. No, I want maybe a stretch poplin for a top. It's really hard to find, because that's the thing, is like, that's a good one. If you're looking for a stretch poplin for a blouse or a dress, you can't look in bottom weights for that, right? Worst, you're looking in like shirt weights, top weights, things like that, which is huge. Like, it's a huge category. It's not narrowed down. I want a stretch woven and knit. Like, in other words, I just want stretch woven. Like, you have your knit category. Give me stretch wovens. Please and thank you. My handwriting is getting worse and worse. Saremy. Sewamy. Someone called me Saremy once. All right, that's it. That's the letter. I would love this so much. In fact, I know what I'm asking for on Christmas Eve. I figured it out today. Like once I thought of this, I was like, oh, I know what I'm asking for. I know what I'm going to ask for. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Happy sewing. And I hope I see you next time. Where's my thinking? I wish I really would create a button for this. Bye.